Hello, welcome back. Before I just got my Minecraft of me and myself where it was in our live stream episode 13. Still doing this, just gonna change the thumbnail and all that like we normally do. Thumbnail. Select players. Don't save. Yep, so we go again. Anyway, so everything for that action was always that same song was on. I don't listen to the same song all the time. Just like that's always the song that I have on the iPhone. I'm not doing anything. I just press a button and it automatically plays that. Since it was a song I played when it was on iTunes, so it just loops that. Could go on and turn it to a playlist. Could. I'm not going to. Anyway. Back to building.
Of the blow that's inseparable from Peeta's cry of pain, and his blood as it splatters the tiles. Part 2. The Assault. Chapter 10. The scream begins in my lower back and works its way up through my body only to jam in my throat. I am avox mute, choking on my grief. Even if I could release the muscles in my neck, let the sound tear into space, would anyone notice it? The room's in an uproar. Questions and demands ring out as they try to decipher Peeta's words. And you, in 13, dead by morning. Yet no one is asking about the messenger whose blood has been replaced by static. A voice calls the others to attention. Shut up! Every pair of eyes falls on Haymitch. It's not some big mystery. The boy's telling us we're about to be attacked here in 13. How would he have that information? Why should we trust him? How do you know? Haymitch gives a growl of frustration. They're beating him bloody while we speak. What more do you need? Katniss, help me out here. I have to give myself a shake to free my words. Haymitch is right. I don't know where Peeta got the information or if it's true, but he believes it is, and I can't say aloud what Snow's doing to him. You don't know him, Haymitch says to Coin. We do. Get your people ready. The president doesn't seem alarmed, only somewhat perplexed by this turn in events. She mulls over the words, tapping one finger lightly on the rim of the control board in front of her. When she speaks, she addresses Haymitch in an even voice. Of course, we have prepared for such a scenario, although we have decades of support for the assumption that further direct attacks on 13 would be counterproductive to the capital's cause. Nuclear missiles would release radiation into the atmosphere, with incalculable environmental results. Even routine bombing could badly damage our military compound, which we know they hope to regain. And of course, they invite a counterstrike. It is conceivable that, given our current alliance with the rebels, those would be viewed as acceptable risks. You think so? Says Haymitch. It's a shade too sincere, but the subtleties of irony are often wasted in 13. I do. At any rate, we're overdue for a level 5 security drill, says Coin. Let's proceed with the lockdown. She begins to type rapidly on her keyboard, authorizing her decision. The moment she raises her head, it begins. There have been 2 low-level drills since I arrived in 13. I don't remember much about the first. I was in intensive care in the hospital, and I think the patients were exempted, as the complications of removing us for a practice drill outweighed the benefits. I was vaguely aware of a mechanical voice instructing people to congregate in yellow zones. During the second, a level 2 drill meant for minor crises, such as a temporary quarantine while citizens were tested for contagion during a flu outbreak. We were supposed to return to our living quarters. I stayed behind a pipe in the laundry room, ignored the pulsating beeps coming over the audio system, and watched a spider construct a web. Neither experience has prepared me for the wordless, eardrum-piercing, fear-inducing sirens that now permeate 13. There would be no disregarding this sound, which seems designed to throw the whole population into a frenzy. But this is 13, and that doesn't happen. Boggs guides Finnick and me out of command, along the hall to a doorway, and onto a wide stairway. Streams of people are converging to form a river that flows only downward. No one shrieks or tries to push ahead. Even the children don't resist. We descend, flight after flight, speechless because no word could be heard above this sound. I look for my mother and Prim, but it's impossible to see anyone but those immediately around me. They're both working in the hospital tonight, though, so there's no way they can miss the drill. My ears pop and my eyes feel heavy. We are coal mine deep. The only plus is that the farther we retreat into the earth, the less shrill the sirens become. It's as if they were meant to physically drive us away from the surface, which I suppose they are. Groups of people begin to peel off into marked doorways, and still Boggs directs me downward, until finally the stairs end at the edge of an enormous cavern. I start to walk straight in, and Boggs stops me, shows me that I must wave my schedule in front of a scanner so that I'm accounted for. No doubt the information's going to some computer somewhere to make sure no one's gone astray. The place seems unable to decide if it's natural or man-made. Certain areas of the walls are stone, while steel beams and concrete heavily reinforce others. Sleeping bunks are hewn right into the rock walls. There's a kitchen, bathrooms, a first aid station. This place was designed for an extended stay. White signs with letters or numbers are placed at intervals around the cavern. As Boggs tells Finnick and me to report to the area that matches our assigned quarters, in my case E for compartment E, Plutarch strolls up. "Ah, here you are," he says. Recent events have had little effect on Plutarch's mood. He still has a happy glow from Beatty's success on the airtime assault. Eyes on the forest, not on the trees. Not on Peta's punishment or 13's imminent blasting. "Katniss, obviously this is a bad moment for you, what with Peta's setback, but you need to be aware that others will be watching you." "What?" I say. I can't believe he actually just downgraded Peta's dire circumstances to a setback. "The other people in the bunker, they'll be taking their cue on how to react from you. If you're calm and brave, others will try to be as well. If you panic, it could spread like wildfire," explains Plutarch. I just stare at him. Fire is catching, so to speak. He continues, as if I'm being slow on the uptake. "Why don't I just pretend I'm on camera, Plutarch?" I say. "Yes, perfect. One is always much braver with an audience," he says. "Look at the courage Peta just displayed." It's all I can do not to slap him. "I've got to get back to coin before lockdown. You keep up the good work," he says, and then heads off. I cross to the big letter E posted on the wall. Our space consists of a 12 by 12 foot square of stone floor delineated by painted lines. Carved into the wall are 2 bunks, one of us will be sleeping on the floor, and a ground level cube space for storage. A piece of white paper coated in clear plastic reads Bunker Protocol. I stare fixedly at the little black specks on the sheet. For a while they're obscured by the residual blood droplets that I can't seem to wipe from my vision. Slowly the words come into focus. The first section is entitled, On Arrival. 1. Make sure all members of your compartment are accounted for. My mother and Prim haven't arrived, but I was one of the first people to reach the bunker. Both of them are probably helping to relocate hospital patients. 2. Go to the supply station and secure 1 pack for each member of your compartment. Ready your living area. Return packs. I scan the cavern until I locate the supply station, a deep room set off by a counter. People wait behind it, but there's not a lot of activity there yet. I walk over, give our compartment letter, and request 3 packs. A man checks a sheet, pulls the specified packs from shelving, and swings them up onto the counter. After sliding one on my back and getting a grip on the other two with my hands, I turn to find a group rapidly forming behind me. "Excuse me," I say as I carry my supplies through the others. Is it a matter of timing? Or is Plutarch right? Are these people modeling their behavior on mine? Back at our space, I open one of the packs to find a thin mattress, bedding, 2 sets of gray clothing, a toothbrush, a comb, and a flashlight. On examining the contents of the other packs, I find the only discernible difference is that they contain both gray and white outfits. The latter will be for my mother and Prim, in case they have medical duties. After I make up the beds, store the clothes, and return the backpacks, I've got nothing to do but observe the last rule. 3. Await further instructions. I sit cross-legged on the floor to await. A steady flow of people begins to fill the room, claiming spaces, collecting supplies. It won't take long until the place is full up. I wonder if my mother and Prim are going to stay the night at wherever the hospital patients have been taken. But no, I don't think so. They were on the list here. I'm starting to get anxious when my mother appears. I look behind her into a sea of strangers. "Where's Prim?" I ask. "Isn't she here?" she replies. "She was supposed to come straight down from the hospital. She left 10 minutes before I did. Where is she? Where could she have gone?" I squeeze my lids shut tight for a moment to track her as I would prey on a hunt. See her react to the sirens, rush to help the patients, nod as they gesture for her to descend to the bunker, and then hesitate with her on the stairs. Torn for a moment. But why? My eyes fly open. The cat. She went back for him. "Oh no," my mother says. We both know I'm right. We're pushing against the incoming tide, trying to get out of the bunker. Up ahead, I can see them preparing to shut the thick metal doors, slowly rotating the metal wheels on either side inward. Somehow, I know that once they have been sealed, nothing in the world will convince the soldiers to open them. Perhaps it will even be beyond their control. I'm indiscriminately shoving people aside as I shout for them to wait. The space between the doors shrinks to a yard, a foot. There are only a few inches left when I jam my hand through the crack. "Open it! Let me out!" I cry. Consternation shows on the soldiers' faces as they reverse the wheels a bit. Not enough to let me pass, but enough to avoid crushing my fingers. I take the opportunity to wedge my shoulder into the opening. "Prim!" I holler up the stairs. My mother pleads with the guards as I try to wriggle my way out. "Prim!" Then I hear it. The faint sound of footsteps on the stairs. "We're coming!" I hear my sister call. "Hold the door!" That was Gail. "They're coming," I tell the guards. And they slide the doors open about a foot, but I don't dare move, afraid they'll lock us all out, until Prim appears, her cheeks flushed with running, hauling Buttercup. I pull her inside and Gail follows, twisting an armload of baggage sideways to get it into the bunker. The doors are closed with a loud and final clank. "What were you thinking?" I give Prim an angry shake and then hug her, squashing Buttercup between us. Prim's explanation is already on her lips. "I couldn't leave him behind, Katniss. Not twice. You should have seen him pacing the room and howling. He'd come back to protect us." Okay. I take a few breaths to calm myself, step back, and lift Buttercup by the scruff of the neck. "I should have drowned you when I had the chance." His ears flatten and he raises a paw. I hiss before he gets a chance, which seems to annoy him a little, since he considers hissing his own personal sound of contempt. In retaliation, he gives a helpless kitten mew that brings my sister immediately to his defense. "Oh, Katniss, don't tease him," she says, folding him back in her arms. "He's already so upset." The idea that I've wounded the brute's tiny cat feelings just invites further taunting. But Prim's genuinely distressed for him, so instead, I visualize Buttercup's fur lining a pair of gloves, an image that has helped me deal with him over the years. "Okay, sorry." We're under the big E on the wall. Better get him settled in before he loses it. Prim hurries off, and I find myself face to face with Gale. He's holding the box of medical supplies from our kitchen in 12. Site of our last conversation, kiss, fallout, whatever. My game bag slung across his shoulder. If Peeta's right, these didn't stand a chance, he says. Peeta. Blood like raindrops on the window, like wet mud on boots. Thanks for everything. I take our stuff. What were you doing up in our rooms? Just double checking, he says. We're in 47 if you need me. Practically everyone withdrew to their spaces when the doors shut, so I get to cross to our new home with at least 500 people watching me. I try to appear extra calm, to make up for my frantic crashing through the crowd. Like that's fooling anyone. So much for setting an example. Oh, who cares? They all think I'm nuts anyway. One man who I think I knocked to the floor catches my eye and rubs his elbow resentfully. I almost hiss at him too. Prim has Buttercup installed on the lower bunk, draped in a blanket so that only his face pokes out. This is how he likes to be when there's thunder, the one thing that actually frightens him. My mother puts her box carefully in the cube. I crouch, my back supported by the wall, to check what Gale managed to rescue in my hunting bag. The plant book, the hunting jacket, my parents' wedding photo, and the personal contents of my drawer. My Mockingjay pin now lives with Cinna's outfit, but there's the gold locket and the silver parachute with the spile and Peeta's pearl. I knot the pearl into the corner of the parachute, bury it deep in the recesses of the bag, as if it's Peeta's life and no one can take it away as long as I guard it. The faint sound of the sirens cuts off sharply. Coyne's voice comes over the district audio system, thanking us all for an exemplary evacuation of the upper levels. She stresses that this is not a drill, as Peeta Malark, the District 12 victor, has possibly made a televised reference to an attack on 13 tonight. That's when the first bomb hits. There's an initial sense of impact followed by an explosion that resonates in my innermost parts, the lining of my intestines, the marrow of my bones, the roots of my teeth. We're all gonna die, I think. My eyes turn upward, expecting to see giant cracks race across the ceiling, massive chunks of stone raining down on us, but the bunker itself gives only a slight shudder. The lights go out, and I experience the disorientation of total darkness. Speechless human sounds, spontaneous shrieks, ragged breaths, baby whimpers, one musical bit of insane laughter, dance around in the charged air. Then there's a hum of a generator, and a dim, wavering glow replaces the stark lighting that is the norm in 13. It's closer to what we had in our homes in 12, when the candles and fire burned low on a winter's night. I reach for Prim in the twilight, clamp my hand on her leg, and pull myself over to her. Her voice remains steady as she croons to Buttercup. It's all right, baby. It's all right. We'll be okay down here. My mother wraps her arms around us. I allow myself to feel young for a moment and rest my head on her shoulder. That was nothing like the bombs in 8, I say. Probably a bunker missile, says Prim, keeping her voice soothing for the cat's sake. We learned about them during the orientation for new citizens. They're designed to penetrate deep in the ground before they go off, because there's no point in bombing 13 on the surface anymore. Nuclear? I ask, feeling a chill run through me. Not necessarily, says Prim. Some just have a lot of explosives in them, but it could be either kind, I guess. The gloom makes it hard to see the heavy metal doors at the end of the bunker. Would they be any protection against a nuclear attack? And even if they were 100% effective at sealing out the radiation, which is really unlikely, would we ever be able to leave this place? The thought of spending whatever remains of my life in this stone vault horrifies me. I want to run madly for the door and demand to be released into whatever lies above. It's pointless. They would never let me out, and I might start some kind of stampede. We're so far down. I'm sure we're safe, says my mother wanly. Is she thinking of my father's being blown to nothingness in the mines? It was a close call, though. Thank goodness Peter had the wherewithal to warn us. The wherewithal. A general term that somehow includes everything that was needed for him to sound the alarm. The knowledge, the opportunity, the courage, and something else I can't define. Peter seemed to have been waging a sort of battle in his mind, fighting to get the message out. Why? The ease with which he manipulates words is his greatest talent. Was his difficulty a result of his torture? Something more? Like madness? Coyne's voice, perhaps a shade grimmer, fills the bunker, the volume level flickering with the lights. Apparently, Peter Millark's information was sound, and we owe him a great debt of gratitude. Sensors indicate the first missile was not nuclear, but very powerful. We expect more will follow. For the duration of the attack, citizens are to stay in their assigned areas unless otherwise notified. A soldier alerts my mother that she's needed in the first aid station. She's reluctant to leave us, even though she'll only be 30 yards away. We'll be fine, really, I tell her. Do you think anything could get past him? I point to Buttercup, who gives such a half-hearted hiss we all have to laugh a little. Even I feel sorry for him. After my mother goes, I suggest, why don't you climb in with him, Prem? I know it's silly, but I'm afraid the bunk might collapse on us during the attack, she says. If the bunks collapse, the whole bunker will have given way and buried us. But I decide this kind of logic won't actually be helpful. Instead, I clean out the storage cube and make Buttercup a bed inside. Then I pull a mattress in front of it for my sister and me to share. We're given clearance in small groups to use the bathroom and brush our teeth, although showering has been canceled for the day. I curl up with Prim on the mattress, double layering the blankets because the cavern emits a dank chill. Buttercup, miserable even with Prim's constant attention, huddles in the cube and exhales cat breath in my face. Despite the disagreeable conditions, I'm glad to have time with my sister. My extreme preoccupation since I came here, no, since the first games, really, has left little attention for her. I haven't been watching over her the way I should, the way I used to. After all, it was Gail who checked our compartment, not me. Something to make up for. I realize I've never even bothered to ask her about how she's handling the shock of coming here. So, how are you liking 13, Prim? I offer. Right now? She asks. We both laugh. I miss home badly sometimes, but...
Yeah? Yes, please. Let's go. Okay.
Then I remember there's nothing left to miss anymore. It feels safer here. We don't have to worry about you. Well, not the same way. She pauses, and then a shy smile crosses her lips. I think they're gonna train me to be a doctor. It's the first I've heard of it. Well, of course they are. They'd be stupid not to. They've been watching me when I help out in the hospital. I'm already taking the medic courses. It's just beginner stuff. I know a lot of it from home. Still, there's plenty to learn, she tells me. That's great, I say. Prim, a doctor. She couldn't even dream of it in 12. Something small and quiet, like a match being struck, lights up the gloom inside me. This is the sort of future a rebellion could bring. What about you, Katniss? How are you managing? Her fingertip moves in short, gentle strokes between Buttercup's eyes. and don't say you're fine. It's true. Whatever the opposite of fine is, that's what I am. So I go ahead and tell her about PETA, his deterioration on screen, and how I think they must be killing him at this very moment. Buttercup has to rely on himself for a while, because now Prim turns her attention to me, pulling me closer, brushing the hair back behind my ears with her fingers. I've stopped talking because there's really nothing left to say, and there's this piercing sort of pain where my heart is. Maybe I'm even having a heart attack, but it doesn't seem worth mentioning. Katniss, I don't think President Snow will kill PETA, she says. Of course she says this. It's what she thinks will calm me. But her next words come as a surprise. If he does, you won't have anyone left you want. He won't have any way to hurt you. Suddenly, I am reminded of another girl, one who had seen all the evil the Capitol had to offer, Joanna Mason, the tribute from District 7 in the last arena. I was trying to prevent her from going into the jungle where the Jabberjays mimicked the voices of loved ones being tortured, but she brushed me off, saying, "They can't hurt me. I'm not like the rest of you. There's no one left I love." Then I know Prim is right, that Snow cannot afford to waste PETA's life, especially now, while the Mockingjay causes so much havoc. He's killed Cinna already, destroyed my home, my family, Gale, and even Haymitch are out of his reach. PETA's all he has left. So what do you think they'll do to him? I ask. Prim sounds about 1,000 years old when she speaks. Whatever it takes to break you. Chapter 11. What will break me? This is the question that consumes me over the next 3 days as we wait to be released from our prison of safety. What will break me into 1,000,000 pieces so that I am beyond repair, beyond usefulness? I mention it to no one, but it devours my waking hours and weaves itself throughout my nightmares. 4 more bunker missiles fall over this period, all massive, all very damaging, but there's no urgency to the attack. The bombs are spread out over the long hours so that just when you think the raid is over, another blast sends shockwaves through your guts. It feels more designed to keep us in lockdown than to decimate 13. Cripple the district, yes. Give the people plenty to do to get the place running again. But destroy it? No. Coyne was right on that point. You don't destroy what you want to acquire in the future. I assume what they really want, in the short term, is to stop the airtime assaults and keep me off the televisions of Pan Am. We receive next to no information about what is happening. Our screens never come on, and we get only brief audio updates from Coyne about the nature of the bombs. Certainly the war is still being waged, but as to its status, we're in the dark. Inside the bunker, cooperation is the order of the day. We adhere to a strict schedule for meals and bathing, exercise, and sleep. Small periods of socialization are granted to alleviate the tedium. Our space becomes very popular because both children and adults have a fascination with Buttercup. He attains celebrity status with his evening game of Crazy Cat. I created this by accident a few years ago during a winter blackout. You simply wiggle a flashlight beam around on the floor, and Buttercup tries to catch it. I'm petty enough to enjoy it because I think it makes him look stupid. Inexplicably, everyone here thinks he's clever and delightful. I'm even issued a special set of batteries, an enormous waste, to be used for this purpose. The citizens of 13 are truly starved for entertainment. It's on the 3rd night during our game that I answer the question eating away at me. Crazy Cat becomes a metaphor for my situation. I am Buttercup. PETA, the thing I want so badly to secure, is the light. As long as Buttercup feels he has the chance of catching the elusive light under his paws, he's bristling with aggression. That's how I've been since I left the arena with PETA alive. When the light goes out completely, Buttercup's temporarily distraught and confused, but he recovers and moves on to other things. That's what would happen if PETA died. But the one thing that sends Buttercup into a tailspin is when I leave the light on, but put it hopelessly out of his reach, high on the wall, beyond even his jumping skills. He paces below the wall, wails, and can't be comforted or distracted. He's useless until I shut the light off. That's what Snow is trying to do to me now. Only I don't know what form his game takes. Maybe this realization on my part is all Snow needs. Thinking that PETA was in his possession and being tortured for rebel information was bad. But thinking that he's being tortured specifically to incapacitate me is unendurable. And it's under the weight of this revelation that I truly begin to break. After Crazy Cat, we're directed to bed. The power's been coming and going. Sometimes the lamps burn at full brightness. Other times we squint at one another in the brownouts. At bedtime, they turn the lamps to near darkness and activate safety lights in each space. Prim, who's decided the walls will hold up, snuggles with Buttercup on the lower bunk. My mother's on the upper. I offer to take a bunk, but they make me keep to the floor mattress since I flail around so much when I'm sleeping. I'm not flailing now, as my muscles are rigid with the tension of holding myself together. The pain over my heart returns, and from it, I imagine tiny fissures spreading out into my body. Through my torso, down my arms and legs, over my face, leaving it crisscrossed with cracks. One good jolt of a bunker missile, and I could shatter into strange, razor-sharp shards. When the restless, wiggling majority has settled into sleep, I carefully extricate myself from my blanket and tiptoe through the cavern until I find Finnick, feeling for some justified reason that he will understand. He sits under the safety light in his space, knotting his rope, not even pretending to rest. As I whisper my discovery of Snow's plan to break me, it dawns on me. This strategy is very old news to Finnick. It's what broke him. This is what they're doing to you with Annie, isn't it? I ask. Well, they didn't arrest her because they thought she'd be a wealth of rebel information, he says. They know I'd never have risked telling her anything like that for her own protection. Oh, Finnick, I'm so sorry, I say. No, I'm sorry that I didn't warn you somehow, he tells me. Suddenly, a memory surfaces. I'm strapped to my bed, mad with rage and grief after the rescue. Finnick is trying to console me about PETA. They'll figure out he doesn't know anything pretty fast, and they won't kill him if they think they can use him against you. You did warn me, though, on the hovercraft. Only when you said they'd use PETA against me, I thought you meant like bait, to lure me into the capital somehow, I say. I shouldn't have said even that. It was too late to be of any help to you. Since I hadn't warned you before the quarter quell, I should have shut up about how Snow operates. Finnick yanks on the end of his rope, and an intricate knot becomes a straight line again. It's just that I didn't understand when I met you. After your first games, I thought the whole romance was an act on your part. We all expected you to continue that strategy. But it wasn't until PETA hit the force field and nearly died that Finnick hesitates. I think back to the arena, how I sobbed when Finnick revived PETA. The quizzical look on Finnick's face. The way he excused my behavior, blaming it on my pretend pregnancy. That you what? That I knew I'd misjudged you. That you do love him. I'm not saying in what way. Maybe you don't know yourself. But anyone paying attention could see how much you care about him. He says gently. Anyone? On Snow's visit before the victory tour, he challenged me to erase any doubts of my love for PETA. Convince me, Snow said. It seems under that hot pink sky with PETA's life in limbo, I finally did. and in doing so, I gave him the weapon he needed to break me. Finnick and I sit for a long time in silence, watching the knots bloom and vanish before I can ask, "How do you bear it?" Finnick looks at me in disbelief. "I don't, Katniss. Obviously, I don't. I drag myself out of nightmares each morning and find there's no relief in waking." Something in my expression stops him. "Better not to give in to it. It takes 10 times as long to put yourself back together as it does to fall apart." Well, he must know. I take a deep breath, forcing myself back into one piece. "The more you can distract yourself, the better," he says. "First thing tomorrow, we'll get you your own rope. Until then, take mine." I spend the rest of the night on my mattress obsessively making knots, holding them up for Buttercup's inspection. If one looks suspicious, he swipes it out of the air and bites it a few times to make sure it's dead. By morning, my fingers are sore, but I'm still holding on. With 24 hours of quiet behind us, Coin finally announces we can leave the bunker. Our old quarters have been destroyed by the bombings. Everyone must follow exact directions to their new compartments. We clean our spaces as directed and file obediently toward the door. Before I'm halfway there, Boggs appears and pulls me from the line. He signals for Gale and Finnick to join us. People move aside to let us by. Some even smile at me, since the crazy cat game seems to have made me more lovable. Out the door, up the stairs, down the hall to one of those multi-directional elevators. And finally, we arrive at Special Defense. Nothing along our route has been damaged, but we are still very deep. Boggs ushers us into a room virtually identical to Command. Coin, Plutarch, Haymitch, Cressida, and everybody else around the table looks exhausted. Someone has finally broken out the coffee, although I'm sure it's viewed only as an emergency stimulant, and Plutarch has both hands wrapped tightly around his cup, as if at any moment it might be taken away. There's no small talk. "We need all 4 of you suited up and above ground," says the president. "You have 2 hours to get footage showing the damage from the bombing, establish that 13's military unit remains not only functional, but dominant, and, most important, that the Mockingjay is still alive. Any questions?" "Can we have a coffee?" asks Finnick. Steaming cups are handed out. I stare distastefully at the shiny black liquid, never having been much of a fan of the stuff, but thinking it might help me stay on my feet. Finnick sloshes some cream in my cup and reaches into the sugar bowl. "Want a sugar cube?" he asks in his old seductive voice. That's how we met, with Finnick offering me sugar, surrounded by horses and chariots, costumed and painted for the crowds, before we were allies. Before I had any idea what made him tick. The memory actually coaxes a smile out of me. "Here, it improves the taste," he says in his real voice, plunking 3 cubes in my cup. As I turn to go suit up as the Mockingjay, I catch Gale watching me and Finnick unhappily. What now? Does he actually think something's going on between us? Maybe he saw me go to Finnick's last night. I would have passed the Hawthorne space to get there. I guess that probably rubbed him the wrong way, me seeking out Finnick's company instead of his. Well, fine. I've got rope burn on my fingers, I can barely hold my eyes open, and a camera crew's waiting for me to do something brilliant. And Snow's got PETA. Gale can think whatever he wants. In my new remake room in Special Defense, my prep team slaps me into my Mockingjay suit, arranges my hair, and applies minimal makeup before my coffee's even cooled. In 10 minutes, the cast and crew of the next propos are making the circuitous trek to the outside. I slurp my coffee as we travel, finding that the cream and sugar greatly enhance its flavor. As I knock back the dregs that have settled to the bottom of the cup, I feel a slight buzz start to run through my veins. After climbing a final ladder, Boggs hits a lever that opens a trapdoor. Fresh air rushes in. I take big gulps, and for the first time, allow myself to feel how much I hated the bunker. We emerge into the woods, and my hands run through the leaves overhead. Some are just starting to turn. What day is it? I ask no one in particular. Boggs tells me September begins next week. September. That means Snow has had PETA in his clutches for 5, maybe 6 weeks. I examine a leaf on my palm and see I'm shaking. I can't will myself to stop. I blame the coffee and try to focus on slowing my breathing, which is far too rapid for my pace. Debris begins to litter the forest floor. We come to our first crater, 30 yards wide, and I can't tell how deep. Very. Boggs says anyone on the first 10 levels would likely have been killed. We skirt the pit and continue on. Can you rebuild it? Gail asks. Not anytime soon. That one didn't get much. A few backup generators and a poultry farm. Says Boggs. We'll just seal it off. The trees disappear as we enter the area inside the fence. The craters are ringed with a mixture of old and new rubble. Before the bombing, very little of the current 13 was above ground. A few guard stations, the training area, about a foot of the top floor of our building, where Buttercup's window jutted out, with several feet of steel on top of it. Even that was never meant to withstand more than a superficial attack. How much of an edge did the boys' warning give you? Asks Hamish. About 10 minutes before our own systems would have detected the missiles, says Boggs. But it did help, right? I ask. I can't bear it if he says no. Absolutely, Boggs replies. Civilian evacuation was completed. Seconds count when you're under attack. 10 minutes meant lives saved. Prim, I think. And Gale. They were in the bunker only a couple of minutes before the first missile hit. PETA might have saved them. Add their names to the list of things I can never stop owing him for. Cressida has the idea to film me in front of the ruins of the old Justice Building, which is something of a joke since the Capitol's been using it as a backdrop for fake news broadcasts for years to show that the district no longer existed. Now with the recent attack, the Justice Building sits about 10 yards away from the edge of a new crater. As we approach what used to be the grand entrance, Gale points out something, and the whole party slows down. I don't know what the problem is at first, and then I see the ground strewn with fresh pink and red roses. Don't touch them, I yell. They're for me. The sickeningly sweet smell hits my nose, and my heart begins to hammer against my chest. So I didn't imagine it. The rose on my dresser. Before me lies Snow's second delivery. Long-stemmed pink and red beauties, the very flowers that decorated the set where PETA and I performed our post-victory interview. Flowers not meant for one, but for a pair of lovers. I explain to the others as best I can. Upon inspection, they appear to be harmless, if genetically enhanced, flowers. 24 roses, slightly wilted, most likely dropped after the last bombing. A crew in special suits collects them and carts them away. I feel certain they will find nothing extraordinary in them, though. Snow knows exactly what he's doing to me. It's like having Cinna beaten to a pulp while I watch from my tribute tube, designed to unhinge me. Like then, I try to rally and fight back. But as Cressida gets Castor and Pollux in place, I feel my anxiety building. I'm so tired, so wired, and so unable to keep my mind on anything but PETA since I've seen the roses. The coffee was a huge mistake. What I didn't need was a stimulant. My body visibly shakes and I can't seem to catch my breath. After days in the bunker, I'm squinting no matter what direction I turn, and the light hurts. Even in the cool breeze, sweat trickles down my face. So, what exactly do you need from me again? I ask. Just a few quick lines that show you're alive and still fighting, says Cressida. Okay. I take my position and then I'm staring into the red light. Staring. I'm sorry, I've got nothing. Cressida walks up to me. You feeling okay? I nod. She pulls a small cloth from her pocket and blots my face. How about we do the old Q&A thing? Yeah, that would help, I think. I cross my arms to hide the shaking. Glance at Finnick, who gives me a thumbs up, but he's looking pretty shaky himself. Cressida's back in position now. So, Katniss, you've survived the Capitol bombing of 13. How did it compare with what you experienced on the ground in 8? We were so far underground this time, there was no real danger. 13's alive and well, and so am. My voice cuts off in a dry, squeaking sound. Try the line again, says Cressida. 13's alive and well, and so am I. I take a breath, trying to force air down into my diaphragm. 13's alive, and so... No, that's wrong. I swear I can still smell those roses. Katniss, just this one line and you're done today. I promise, says Cressida. 13's alive and well, and so am I. I swing my arms to loosen myself up, place my fists on my hips, then drop them to my sides. Saliva's filling my mouth at a ridiculous rate, and I feel vomit at the back of my throat. I swallow hard and open my lips so I can get the stupid line out and go hide in the woods, and that's when I start crying. It's impossible to be the Mockingjay. Impossible to complete even this one sentence. Because now I know that everything I say will be directly taken out on Peeta, result in his torture. But not his death. No, nothing so merciful as that. Snow will ensure that his life is much worse than death. Cut, I hear Cressida say quietly. What's wrong with her? Plutarch says under his breath. She's figured out how Snow's using Peeta, says Finnick. There's something like a collective sigh of regret from the semicircle of people spread out before me. Because I know this now. Because there will never be a way for me to not know this again. Because beyond the military disadvantage losing a Mockingjay entails, I am broken. Several sets of arms would embrace me. But in the end, the only person I truly want to comfort me is Haymitch. Because he loves Peeta too. I reach out for him and say something like his name, and he's there, holding me and patting my back. It's okay. It'll be okay, sweetheart. He sits me on a length of broken marble pillar and keeps an arm around me while I sob. I can't do this anymore, I say. I know, he says. All I can think of is what he's gonna do to Peeta. Because I'm the Mockingjay. I get out. I know. Haymitch's arm tightens around me. Did you see how weird he acted? What are they doing to him? I'm gasping for air between sobs, but I manage one last phrase. It's my fault. And then I cross some line into hysteria, and there's a needle in my arm and the world slips away. It must be strong, whatever they shot into me, because it's a full day before I come to. My sleep wasn't peaceful, though. I have the sense of emerging from a world of dark, haunted places where I traveled alone. Haymitch sits in the chair by my bed, his skin waxen, his eyes bloodshot. I remember about Peeta and start to tremble again. Haymitch reaches out and squeezes my shoulder. It's all right. We're gonna try to get Peeta out. What? That makes no sense. Plutarch's sending in a rescue team. He has people on the inside. He thinks we can get Peeta back alive, he says. Why didn't we before? I say. Because it's costly. But everyone agrees this is the thing to do. It's the same choice we made in the arena, to do whatever it takes to keep you going. We can't lose the Mockingjay now, and you can't perform unless you know Snow can't take it out on Peeta. Haymitch offers me a cup. Here, drink something. I slowly sit up and take a sip of water. What do you mean, costly? He shrugs. Covers will be blown. People may die, but keep in mind that they're dying every day. And it's not just PETA. We're getting Annie out for Finnick, too. Where is he? I ask. Behind that screen, sleeping his sedative off. He lost it right after we knocked you out, says Hamish. I smile a little, feel a bit less weak. Yeah, it was a really excellent shoot. You two cracked up, and Boggs left to arrange the mission to get PETA. We're officially in reruns. Well, if Boggs is leading it, that's a plus, I say. Oh, he's on top of it. It was volunteer only, but he pretended not to notice me waving my hand in the air, says Hamish. See, he's already demonstrated good judgment. Something's wrong. Hamish is trying a little too hard to cheer me up. It's not really his style. So who else volunteered? I think there were 7 altogether, he says evasively. I get a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach. Who else, Hamish? I insist. Hamish finally drops the good-natured act. You know who else, Katniss. You know who stepped up first. Of course I do. Gale. Chapter 12. Today, I might lose both of them. I try to imagine a world where both Gale's and PETA's voices have ceased. Hands stilled. Eyes unblinking. I'm standing over their bodies, having a last look, leaving the room where they lie. But when I open the door to step out into the world, there's only a tremendous void, a pale gray nothingness that is all my future holds. Do you want me to have them sedate you until it's over? Asks Hamish. He's not joking. This is a man who spent his adult life at the bottom of a bottle, trying to anesthetize himself against the Capitol's crimes. The 16-year-old boy who won the second quarter quell must have had people he loved, family, friends, a sweetheart maybe, that he fought to get back to. Where are they now? How is it that until PETA and I were thrust upon him, there was no one at all in his life? What did Snow do to them? No, I say. I want to go to the Capitol. I want to be part of the rescue mission. They're gone, says Hamish. How long ago did they leave? I could catch up. I could... What? What could I do? Hamish shakes his head. It'll never happen. You're too valuable and too vulnerable. There was talk of sending you to another district to divert the Capitol's attention while the rescue takes place, but no one felt you could handle it. Please, Hamish. I'm begging now. I have to do something. I can't just sit here waiting to hear if they died. There must be something I can do. All right. Let me talk to Plutarch. You stay put. But I can't. Hamish's footsteps are still echoing in the outer hall when I fumble my way through the slit in the dividing curtain to find Finnick sprawled out on his stomach, his hands twisted in his pillowcase. Although it's cowardly, cruel even, to rouse him from the shadowy, muted drug land to stark reality, I go ahead and do it because I can't stand to face this by myself. As I explain our situation, his initial agitation mysteriously ebbs. Don't you see, Katniss? This will decide things, one way or the other. By the end of the day, they'll either be dead or with us. It's more than we could hope for. Well, that's a sunny view of our situation. And yet there's something calming about the idea that this torment could come to an end. The curtain yanks back, and there's Hamish. He has a job for us, if we can pull it together. They still need post-bombing footage of 13. If we can get it in the next few hours, Beatty can air it leading up to the rescue and maybe keep the Capitol's attention elsewhere. Yes, a distraction, says Finnick. A decoy of sorts. What we really need is something so riveting that even President Snow won't be able to tear himself away. Got anything like that? Asks Hamish. Having a job that might help the mission snaps me into focus. While I knock down breakfast and get prepped, I try to think of what I might say. President Snow must be wondering how that blood-splattered floor and his roses are affecting me. If he wants me broken, then I will have to be whole. But I don't think I will convince him of anything by shouting a couple of defiant lines at the camera. Besides, that won't buy the rescue team any time. Outbursts are short. It's stories that take time. I don't know if it will work, but when the television crew's all assembled above ground, I asked Cressida if she could start out by asking me about PETA. I take a seat on the fallen marble pillar where I had my breakdown, wait for the red light and Cressida's question. "How did you meet PETA?" she asks. And then I do the thing that Hamish has wanted since my first interview. I open up. When I met PETA, I was 11 years old, and I was almost dead. I talk about that awful day when I tried to sell the baby clothes in the rain, how PETA's mother chased me from the bakery door, and how he took a beating to bring me the loaves of bread that saved our lives. We had never even spoken. The first time I ever talked to PETA was on the train to the games. "But he was already in love with you," says Cressida. "I guess so." I allow myself a small smile. "How are you doing with the separation?" she asks. "Not well. I know at any moment Snow could kill him. Especially since he warned 13 about the bombing. It's a terrible thing to live with," I say. "But because of what they're putting him through, I don't have any reservations anymore about doing whatever it takes to destroy the Capitol. I'm finally free." I turn my gaze skyward and watch the flight of a hawk across the sky. President Snow once admitted to me that the Capitol was fragile. At the time, I didn't know what he meant. It was hard to see clearly because I was so afraid. Now I'm not. The Capitol's fragile because it depends on the districts for everything. Food, energy, even the peacekeepers that police us. If we declare our freedom, the Capitol collapses. President Snow, thanks to you, I'm officially declaring mine today. I've been sufficient, if not dazzling. Everyone loves the bread story, but it's my message to President Snow that gets the wheels spinning in Plutarch's brain. He hastily calls Finnick and Hamish over, and they have a brief but intense conversation that I can see Hamish isn't happy with. Plutarch seems to win, Finnick's pale but nodding his head by the end of it. As Finnick moves to take my seat before the camera, Hamish tells him, "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do, if it will help her." Finnick balls up his rope in his hand. "I'm ready." I don't know what to expect. A love story about Annie, an account of the abuses in District 4. But Finnick O'Dare takes a completely different tack. President Snow used to sell me. My body, that is. Finnick begins in a flat, removed tone. I wasn't the only one. If a victor is considered desirable, the president gives them as a reward or allows people to buy them for an exorbitant amount of money. If you refuse, he kills someone you love. So you do it. That explains it then. Finnick's parade of lovers in the Capitol. They were never real lovers. Just people like our old head peacekeeper, Cray, who bought desperate girls to devour and discard because he could. I want to interrupt the taping and beg Finnick's forgiveness for every false thought I've ever had about him. But we have a job to do, and I sense Finnick's role will be far more effective than mine. I wasn't the only one, but I was the most popular, he says. And perhaps the most defenseless because the people I loved were so defenseless. To make themselves feel better, my patrons would make presents of money or jewelry. But I found a much more valuable form of payment. Secrets, I think. That's what Finnick told me his lovers paid him in. Only I thought the whole arrangement was by his choice. Secrets, he says, echoing my thoughts. And this is where you're going to want to stay tuned, President Snow, because so very many of them were about you. But let's begin with some of the others. Finnick begins to weave a tapestry so rich in detail that you can't doubt its authenticity. Tales of strange sexual appetites, betrayals of the heart, bottomless greed, and bloody power plays. Drunken secrets whispered over damp pillowcases in the dead of night. Finnick was someone bought and sold, a district slave. A handsome one, certainly, but in reality harmless. Who would he tell? And who would believe him if he did? But some secrets are too delicious not to share. I don't know the people Finnick names. All seem to be prominent capital citizens. But I know from listening to the chatter of my prep team, the attention the most mild slip in judgment can draw. If a bad haircut can lead to hours of gossip, what will charges of incest, backstabbing, blackmail, and arson produce? Even as the waves of shock and recrimination roll over the capital, the people there will be waiting, as I am now, to hear about the president. And now, on to our good President Coriolanus Snow, says Finnick. Such a young man when he rose to power. Such a clever one to keep it. How, you must ask yourself, did he do it? One word. That's all you really need to know. Poison. Finnick goes back to Snow's political ascension, which I know nothing of, and works his way up to the present, pointing out case after case of the mysterious deaths of Snow's adversaries, or, even worse, his allies who had the potential to become threats. People dropping dead at a feast or slowly, inexplicably declining into shadows over a period of months. Blamed on bad shellfish, elusive viruses, or an overlooked weakness in the aorta. Snow drinking from the poisoned cup himself to deflect suspicion. But antidotes don't always work. They say that's why he wears the roses that reek of perfume. They say it's to cover the scent of blood from the mouth sores that will never heal. They say. Snow has a list, and no one knows who will be next. Poison. The perfect weapon for a snake. Since my opinion of the capital and its noble president is already so low, I can't say Finnick's allegations shock me. They seem to have far more effect on the displaced capital rebels like my crew and Fulvia. Even Plutarch occasionally reacts in surprise, maybe wondering how a specific tidbit passed him by. When Finnick finishes, they just keep the cameras rolling until finally he has to be the one to say, cut. The crew hurries inside to edit the material, and Plutarch leads Finnick off for a chat, probably to see if he has any more stories. I'm left with Haymitch in the rubble, wondering if Finnick's fate would have one day been mine. Why not? Snow could have gotten a really good price for the girl on fire. Is that what happened to you? I ask Haymitch. No, my mother and younger brother, my girl. They were all dead 2 weeks after I was crowned victor. Because of that stunt, I pulled with the force field, he answers. Snow had no one to use against me. I'm surprised he didn't just kill you, I say. Oh no, I was the example. The person to hold up to the young Finnecks and Joannas and Cashmeres of what could happen to a victor who caused problems, says Haymitch. But he knew he had no leverage against me. Until Peeta and I came along, I say softly. I don't even get a shrug in return. With our job done, there's nothing left for Finnick and me to do but wait. We try to fill the dragging minutes in special defense, tie knots, push our lunch around our bowls, blow things up on the shooting range. Because of the danger of detection, no communication comes from the rescue team. At 1500, the designated hour, we stand tense and silent in the back of a room full of screens and computers and watch Beatty and his team try to dominate the airwaves. His usual fidgety distraction is replaced with a determination I have never seen. Most of my interview doesn't make the cut, just enough to show I am alive and still defiant. It is Finnick's salacious and gory account of the capital that takes the day. Is Beatty's skill improving? Or are his counterparts in the capital a little too fascinated to want to tune Finnick out? For the next 60 minutes, the capital feed alternates between the standard afternoon newscast, Finnick, and attempts to black it all out. But the rebel techno team manages to override even the latter, and in a real coup keeps control for almost the entire attack on Snow. "Let it go," says Beatty, throwing up his hands, relinquishing the broadcast back to the capital. He mops his face with a cloth. "If they're not out of there by now, they're all dead." He spins in his chair to see Finnick and me reacting to his words. "It was a good plan, though. Did Plutarch show it to you?" Of course not. Beatty takes us to another room and shows us how the team, with the help of rebel insiders, has attempted, to free the victors from an underground prison. It seems to have involved knockout gas distributed by the ventilation system, a power failure, the detonation of a bomb in a government building several miles from the prison, and now the disruption of the broadcast. Beatty's glad we find the plan hard to follow because then our enemies will too. "Like your electricity trap in the arena?" I ask. "Exactly, and see how well that worked out," says Beatty. Well, not really, I think. Finnick and I try to station ourselves in command, where surely first word of the rescue will come, but we are barred because serious war business is being carried out. We refuse to leave Special Defense and end up waiting in the Hummingbird room for news. Making knots. No word. Making knots. Tick-tock. This is a clock. Do not think of Gale. Do not think of PETA. Making knots. We do not want dinner. Fingers raw and bleeding, Finnick finally gives up and assumes the hunched position he took in the arena when the Jabberjays attacked. I perfect my miniature noose. The words of the hanging tree replay in my head. Gale and PETA. PETA and Gale. "Did you love Annie right away, Finnick?" I ask. "No." A long time passes before he adds, "She crept up on me." I search my heart, but at the moment the only person I can feel creeping up on me is Snow. It must be midnight. It must be tomorrow when Haymitch pushes open the door. "They're back. We're wanted in the hospital." My mouth opens with a flood of questions that he cuts off with, "That's all I know." I want to run, but Finnick's acting so strange as if he's lost the ability to move, so I take his hand and lead him like a small child. Through Special Defense, into the elevator that goes this way and that, and onto the hospital wing. The place is in an uproar, with doctors shouting orders and the wounded being wheeled through the halls in their beds. We're sideswiped by a gurney bearing an unconscious, emaciated young woman with a shaved head. Her flesh shows bruises and oozing scabs. Joanna Mason, who actually knew rebel secrets, at least the one about me. And this is how she has paid for it. Through a doorway, I catch a glimpse of Gale, stripped to the waist, perspiration streaming down his face as a doctor removes something from under his shoulder blade with a long pair of tweezers. Wounded but alive. I call his name, start toward him until a nurse pushes me back and shuts me out. "Finnick!" Something between a shriek and a cry of joy. A lovely, if somewhat bedraggled young woman, dark tangled hair, sea-green eyes, runs toward us in nothing but a sheet. "Finnick!" And suddenly it's as if there's no one in the world but these two, crashing through space to reach each other. They collide, enfold, lose their balance, and slam against a wall where they stay, clinging into one being, indivisible. A pang of jealousy hits me. Not for either Finnick or Annie, but for their certainty. No one seeing them could doubt their love. Boggs, looking a little worse for wear, but uninjured, finds Haymitch and me. "We got them all out, except Enobaria, but since she's from 2, we doubt she's being held anyway. PETA's at the end of the hall. The effects of the gas are just wearing off. You should be there when he wakes." PETA. Alive and well. Maybe not well, but alive and here. Away from snow, safe, here with me. In a minute, I can touch him, see his smile, hear his laugh. Hamish is grinning at me. Come on then, he says. I'm lightheaded with giddiness. What will I say? Oh, who cares what I say? Peter will be ecstatic no matter what I do. He'll probably be kissing me anyway. I wonder if it will feel like those last kisses on the beach in the arena. The ones I haven't dared let myself consider until this moment. Peter's awake already, sitting on the side of the bed, looking bewildered as a trio of doctors reassure him, flash lights in his eyes, check his pulse. I'm disappointed that mine was not the first face he saw when he woke, but he sees it now. His features register disbelief and something more intense that I can't quite place. Desire? Desperation? Surely both, for he sweeps the doctors aside, leaps to his feet, and moves toward me. I run to meet him, my arms extended to embrace him. His hands are reaching for me too, to caress my face, I think. My lips are just forming his name when his fingers lock around my throat. Chapter 13.
Kinky.
The cold collar chafes my neck and makes the shivering even harder to control. At least I'm no longer in the claustrophobic tube, while the machines click and whir around me, listening to a disembodied voice telling me to hold still, while I try to convince myself I can still breathe. Even now, when I've been assured there will be no permanent damage, I hunger for air. The medical team's main concerns, damage to my spinal cord, airway, veins, and arteries, have been allayed. Bruising, hoarseness, the sore larynx, this strange little cough, not to be worried about. It will all be fine. The Mockingjay will not lose her voice. Where, I want to ask, is the doctor who determines if I am losing my mind? Only I'm not supposed to talk right now. I can't even thank Boggs when he comes to check on me, to look me over and tell me he's seen a lot worse injuries among the soldiers when they teach chokeholds in training. It was Boggs who knocked out PETA with one blow before any permanent damage could be done. I know Hamish would have come to my defense if he hadn't been utterly unprepared. To catch both Hamish and my...
Oh, I don't think it's been thinking really well. Oh, this next to what we got all mate. That's anyway, goodbye everybody. That was the next one.